Yeah, thank you so much, and do spare with me if it becomes too much blah blah. Well, just let me tell you, we at LABLAB, we consist of, well, I have a political science background. And, I have a colleague here, Alexander Marek, who has an architect and urban planning background. And then we have Ebba, who is our landscape architect and geographical information system expert. And then we have Christina, who comes from the strategic communication. I'm telling you this because LABLAB is a transdisciplinary research lab. And you can imagine that our conversations becomes immediately very, very difficult because we have, again, this transdisciplinary approach. So that's the point of LABLAB. When you were asking about methodologies or solutions, I would say when it comes to LABLAB and even this presentation, there will be no solutions whatsoever. I think the only solution, I'm going to actually already answer now the ending of my presentation. I think the only solution is that we keep on this dialogue. We live in democratic systems, and the best tool that we have is the dialogue that represents democracies. That's what we have. So please don't think that you will have a solution that's going to be fixed and then that's it. You have to keep on with the dialogue here in other locations. So do remember that. The amount of democracies is going down, so do remember that. So, LABLAB, funny with this image, it's not AI generated, just to say it. It's actually an image made by Gabriel Macher and Isabel Mager. There are two graphic designers two graphic designers living in Holland. And the important, when we asked them, we wanted to study, the rural space, the countrysides in plural. And so we asked them to make this kind of, future visions of the countrysides. And when we got this one, we got many other ones. Actually, we didn't use this one at the very first beginning because it's so dystopic. So, but now it's unfortunately has moved more forward. So just to have you in mind. I love very much the cottages over there, the red paint that is out there. So this is very much what this is very much what LABLAB studies. We study very much where our ideas comes from and how those ideas take space in this actual space. So my presentation, our presentation, not here. The reason why I have this is, I think we were touching this yesterday's conversation. This is a commercial from Vattenfall, and it's from the 1995, and it say these two holes, and that commercial say, the only thing you need to know is two holes in the wall. That's it. You don't need to care about more. This is communication. The only thing, the two holes, that's it. You don't need to care. But I think already yesterday we felt that this is not the reality anymore. We have to take also responsibility that it's not two holes in the wall. Because before, when it was two holes in the wall, this is, the somewhere else. So it was not here, but this is the somewhere else. This is Harsprånget, one of the most important rivers, Luleå-älven, up in the north of Sweden. And this is a postcard from the 1950s. The reason why we use this postcard has many different reasons. One is also remember where the ideas comes from. Our relationship to nature, our relationship to space. Here you have a river, and you see, the river has been tamed by our technology. You have this kind of gender analysis here. You have the father, you have the son, and you have a safari cloth. We're conquesting nature. This is what the posters communicate, and we're proud of that. This is just to give you an illustration how this place once upon a time did look. This is a photography. This is a painting. The painting, notice, the paint is not saying this is the way how it look. The paint is just illustrating the sense of how it could look. Please be careful when you use this kind of images too. I'm using it, but be careful not to say this is reality. This is not reality. It's a sense of how the place was sensed. So make a difference over there. But again, just showing you how the place did go from this one, now this one. So where do we come from? So I like this photo, this image, illustration is from Johan Philip Korn. You see the time. And the reason why we like this very much is the power. Remember I spoke that we work very much with geographic information systems. This is kind of the beginning. This is the mapping. So it's not just a horizontal mapping, but it's also a vertical mapping. And that is power to communicate, to be able to map what is underneath. Also remember that Sweden was created this Bergsstaten in the 19th century. That's quite bold. Bergsstaten means that the state, that governmental body still exists today, that the state owns what is underneath the minerals. So the Swedish state owns everything. And I think, again, that's quite bold, speaking about knowledge production, that you already understand for 500 years ago the richness that is underneath. Which comes to this, just showing you, we've been talking about landscapes and extractions. Actually, that's what we more or less been talking about. We have a history of extractions. And when I say we in the Nordics, and definitely in the Swedish context. So this is Falu Gruva, which is a great illustration. But notice up there, it says prospect. This is not art. It's beautiful, but it's not art. It's a prospect of exploitation. It's a prospect of extraction. So already there, we have that kind of much more systematic extractions. Lerfors and Trondheim, we've been working also very much with researching in the archives of these landscapes, how they've been transforming. This is what we call these anthropocenic landscapes, the transformation of them. So Lerfors, you see how it potentially could look, once upon a time, and this is when it became transformed into a hydropower station. And this is the same thing here. This is a former national park, Stora Sjöfallet, a national park given the protection from the state in 1909, and then later on the same state that did protection said we have to remove that protection because we have to build our first hydropower, Suvradammen. So you see, the timeline of how landscapes have been transforming. This one is funny. I like this very much. It's one of from Werner von Heidestam, how you say our ideologue from 1819, and he says, I had never understood, the importance, the romancy of when I hear people complaining about waterfalls being destroyed. And then he says that he feels he wants to protest to those who loves waterfalls, because a waterfall in the forest is totally hopeless, uninteresting, and ugly compared to a hydropower station. This is ideology. Then it's being materialized. So think our ideas and then how they materialize in the space. And this is how they materialize today. This is the Swedish energy map. And notice all these fat lines over there. It's not the size of the rivers, it's the size of amount of electricity they're producing. So when we're talking about energy, we also have to think of space, landscapes. This is for Ursa. What is my Ursa colleague? There, go. This is when we were speaking about these things in a dialogue project in Ursa, in the north of Dalarna, with politicians, with citizens, and with the people, the administrative staff. Everybody felt that we need a lexicon. This is so complicated, so we need a lexicon. A lexicon to understand the topic first before we even start to talk with each other. Notice, because if I enter this space and I know much more than you know, then there is unbalance of that. So we needed to secure that somehow you have a little bit, the same way of understanding these questions. Maybe that can also be a little bit tool. Think of, okay, we're going to have a dialogue. Then you cannot just think that everybody has the same knowledge, and you have to put an effort in diminishing that kind of, unbalance of knowledge. Skip this. No, do not skip this, sorry. So we go from this, as Guterres says, it's broken, and we go to a new direction. And here is, just an example of this energy transition. This is Lausitz in eastern Germany. So what we found this place was interesting. This is a brown coal field. And there you have the solar panel systems, and here you have, how scattered they are in the landscape. And the white ones are the still ongoing brown coal fields. I just think it's just interesting that you have these brown coal fields, these dinosaurs, next to this green energy transition, right? And they're still, next to each other, but on a very large scale. So we're moving from coal, this fossil, to the energy transition, but still scale. That's quite big. And then we're thinking at LABLAB, so what is the landscape? When we talk about energy transition, what is the landscape? And we move very much around ourselves, images, understanding the images. So where is the landscape? I think it's necessary to, somehow talk about the space. I don't see really the landscape here. Here you see the landscape. I think this is a commercial in the Swedish subway. And I think I really like this commercial because it's really frank. I think it's the brutal truth. It's bold. It's just telling you, hey, you motherfuckers, you need minerals if you're gonna have this life. I have 2 machines here, and then I have these ones here, So grab it. For me, this is important. I'm not saying that I like it, but it really puts me in these moral, ethical questions. Forget about this. And then this is what I think is funny with these ones. When we had this energy crisis in the Nordic and in Sweden, when the prices went crazy, suddenly everybody was speaking about what kind of electrification area do you belong to. So we're speaking about identities, and suddenly we got a new identity. Oh, I belong to number 4. Oh, I belong to number 1. Woohoo! We had no idea that the electric system did work like this, and suddenly we were aware of these identities. Now we don't talk about that because the price is different. Coming back to space, this is, just asking the question, who represents locality? We're analyzing the large-scale things, and then back to the locality and the landscapes. And with these 2 images, I'm asking the question. So we have landscapes communicate in the sense of community, that we are here, and then we have landscapes as a resource. So that's kind of, the strategic and the existential challenge. That's the existential challenge. I belong to this community, I love this place, but I also need to extract it. So how do I balance this? Remember these 2 holes in the wall? Before, far away, over there, now you have to deal with here. So this is maybe what we need to talk more about. And then we like to study of these grand narratives. I like this illustration, which taken from the train, the Swedish train. So you see, Sweden from the north, but what you see is, these, super amazing big narratives of, energy transition. We do see actually the landscape here. But coming back to the people and the sense of locality, that's what we've been, we're becoming more and more interesting today in understanding locality, the sense of locality, the different ways of approaching to locality, the different ways of defining locality, who is local, who is not local, how can I join locality, can I join locality? So this is very much what we are mapping, trying to understand today. So this is what I was referring here, how the place is being defined with different values, again, identity, culture, and how you have different kind of, from different points of view, you want to grab that kind of locality. I'm not saying that if you're local is the best. I'm just saying that locality is a growing interest of, defining locality, because that gives you possibilities to shape, of course, the space, the locality. Then we're also making, we like very much to do this kind of text languages. So, for example, we're studying this, what you call översiktsplaner, the municipal, official documents. And we like to start understanding the word landskapsbild, so landscape image. And sometimes we see that kind of word popping up in these different documents, but it's very difficult it's not tangible. So we're also looking for where is that kind of landskapsbild? When did it start? When does it finish? Is it considered to be a timeline that is fixed? And what about the rest of the time that has to relate to this image of landskapsbild? And so, of course, we started to forget about this. We started to make this kind of maps, charts of understanding the relationship between, here you have these municipality plans, the different chapters. Here you have the different words we've been coding, and then we try to see how they communicate and relate to each other. The point of doing these diagrams is if you have this document, översiktsplan, and you work at the municipality, and you have actually a document that you're supposed to work with wind power, but this document, this direction, does not give you the tools, because when it comes to the chapter of maybe it says, landscapes or kulturmiljö, wind power, landscape, and cultural environments, they are not intersecting with each other. You don't have a language that they're intersecting with each other. So this is another way for us just to understand what tools you have when you're working with energy transition. If energy transition only pops up in the chapter of energy transition or in the chapter of energy production and not in the chapter of culture, not in the chapter of landscape, then you have difficulties, because energy transition has an impact on landscape, on the culture values of landscapes. So just showing you other ones we have done there. I think this one's much more funny. Let's see how much minutes do I have left. Good. Another way for us also to listen to this sense of locality in relationship to green energy transition. This is Dalarna, and Urey is over there. Yeah, okay, good. No, but seriously, this map, what we did here was a pilot where we had a poll asking people in Dalarna to point out their favorite places. What is your favorite place? Describe it for us. And we wanted to investigate what places people refer to in relationship to the official version of the geographies. So you have your personal way of reading landscape, and then you have the official version of reading geographies. So we wanted to see, do they talk about the same? Because if we're pointing out these locations can be good for energy production, let's say wind power, good. But do these people who live around here, do they point the same place or do they point to other places? That's kind of the correlation we were trying out in this pilot. Now we're going to do it this year. No, 2026, we're going to do it for real. This is also connected to we at LABLAB, together with some other colleagues, we did what you call a landscape character analysis. So in a rough way, for Dalarna, so in a rough way, what the task was to make a classification of the landscape. From the landscape point of view, classification. And then in that work, we also needed to point out sensitive places, medium sensitive, and potential places for green energy transition infrastructure. So that kind of map, it's a way of making a common language for a geographical space. So suddenly, municipalities, the region, the county had a document, a map, where they can gather around. Even if they disagree, they talk still within the same framework of geographies. And so again, with that classification, the pilot is, and now we're going to do a real poll, is to investigate if the places we have pointed out as potentials, how does the community do they refer to them or not? So it's another calibration of understanding locality in relationship to the top-down mapping. And eventually what we also want to do is, to try out here, once you see the existing wind powers, and the other ones are the opposite. It's the existing wind powers and then the ones who are in the making. Again, just to see how they correlate to each other. Which is funny, one thing that we understood that we were not aware of, that a lot of people also from the south of Dalarna refer to their favorite place being in the north of Dalarna. That means that the sense of location, the sense of a place that you love, is not necessarily just out there, but it can be very far away from you. So that was also a valuable observation for us. I know we spoke before about grids. Yesterday we're speaking about grids. Here you have just a cut of the grid from going from the north to the south. And here you have, this is the reindeer path going from the coast up to the mountains. And then you have the fantasy to imagine how good they're correlating with each other. Just other geographies. Or we can talk about Trondelag. This is actually for the project that we're doing here with Speed Local that my colleagues Madeleine and Alexander will talk later today about. But just to give you this map here you have the energy sources in Trondelag. So all the blue ones are the hydropowers, and these ones are the wind powers. And then we also added the reindeer path related to seasons. This was also a funny observation for us, because before, when we're doing this, we thought very much of, reindeer path, and it's just taking reindeer path, that period. Then we realized we're not thinking of reindeer path season-wise. I think in dots. I read the space in dots. But the Sami culture reads the space as movements through seasons. So we also need to add the element of a seasons, meaning the different colors that you see there, the different colors you're not able to read. I mean, I'm going to send the maps, are classified in the different seasons of the year when the rain movement goes. And then coming back to this kind of pilot polls that we wanted to know how much people are aware of their energy transition, local energy transition. I think that's very important to know the awareness of the future. But another element we're going to add to this future poll is to ask them, where do you get your information about your awareness of? Do you get it from, Swedish television, or do you get it from, I don't know, whatever darknet site? That's also very important to know, where does your knowledge about the future comes from when it comes to energy transition. This is a photo from a webpage. It's called Hinderbelysning. I show this. This is a really, really good webpage. They are showing from different locations Hinderbelysning. So this blinking like this, right? And they're showing non-stop. And I think it's good. But my challenge with this one is that there is no source. I'm not able to identify who is behind that. That gives me a challenge for dialogue, because I don't know where the information comes from, but it's a really bold web page. And so coming back to the 2 holes in the wall, I remember I was walking the streets of Stockholm and suddenly, okay, this is about, producerat på 100% grön el, your coffee cup. So back to the domestic level. That's the only thing you should know. You get a good cup of coffee and this 100% green electricity. But where does it come from? Locality again. Just want to show you this beautiful image made by Kristina Strömmer. We at the LABLAB, we had an exhibition in the Virserums Konsthall, and we asked people to weave their image of landscapes. And we got around 85 contributions. Notice that we, with a strong purpose, did exclude the males from here, because that's the reason why we asked people to say, everybody's allowed to come, but you have to weave your image. And we know by demographic that older men, they don't weave. And we know also when you have this kind of dialogues about the space, older men participate and the old woman does not. So this was a way of, not excluding, but still, if you're weaving, you're welcome to join this exhibition. And I love this image from Kristina, a new locality coming up. And notice also that it almost feels like this image that you can have in the kitchen. So, I want to finalize here, coming back to locality. Today's and yesterday's conversation, the name is Public Support in the Energy Transition. Good. But maybe we can start to investigate a new conference with the name Public Support for an Ecological and Social Sustainable Energy Transition. Can be the next conference. Maybe the 3rd conference can be Energy Transition Supporting Public Dialogues. Can move in that direction, so energy transition supporting public dialogues. And maybe the 4th, energy transition supporting democratic infrastructure. What about if we flip it? What about that we talk about, energy transition supporting public dialogues, supporting democratic infrastructure? That is at least, the observations we have at LABLAB to share with you from these localities. The sense of need of a place where to talk about these transformations and yet connecting them, and of course connecting them to democratic. Thank you.
Don't leave.
Okay.
I'm not letting Daniel leave because I'm sure there are some questions, and Julia from the famous Ursa region
Yes.
or locality or something will be asking the questions.
Yes, we have one question here for you, Daniel. How do you think the shaping of space, the narratives around it, perception of what is valuable, how is that connected to structural equalities, inequalities?
Oh gosh, that's come on.
I was happy that I didn't have to answer that question.
Who made that question? Can you repeat it?
Of course. How do you think the shaping of space, the narratives around it, perceptions of what is valuable, how is that connected to structural equalities or inequalities?
Well, yeah, that's a really, really good question. Almost difficult how it is connected to inequalities. Of course, I think inequalities has to do very much with education. If you have the education, you have the possibilities to read your space, you have the possibility to code your space and to decode it, compared to when you don't have enough education. When you also have education, you're able to appropriate the space in another way. You can say these images, like my presentation. I have the possibility of, coding the space by giving you all these images, and then maybe also giving you the challenge how do I decode it. Maybe you disagree. I don't agree with you, Daniel. But then comes back to the dialogue. If we have different ways of entering in the space, of understanding it, there is a great imbalance. And yeah, so I think it's coming back to the question, the answer is a little bit, work very much to diminish that kind of gap of know-how, how we read the space. I don't know if that is an answer, but yeah. And the one who made the question, please come and ask me later and we can talk about that.
Thank you.
Daniel, I have a few questions for you. The first one might be funny, and excuse me. You said that you wanted to exclude the men from the
exhibition.
Yes. But from the exhibition or talking, because, I was remembering what Doug Inge said yesterday, that it's actually the men who tend to be against the green transition. So why did you just want the women there?
Well, in these cases, when we work with dialogues in the local context about transformations, statistically, we know that most of those participating in those dialogues are elderly men. And we know that the elder women are not participating. So this was a way of giving them a space where to express themselves, not excluding actually anybody, but we knew the technique of how to contribute to the conversation was demographic much more connected to older women.
Even though it's the men that normally are against this approach. Okay. Yeah. Another question. Yesterday we learned that Sweden is really #1 in the Nordic countries when it comes to renewable energy. It was totally different. Why? Do you know why?
Yeah, good question. We were talking about space. We are a big country. The way how we talk about the future is totally different when you compare to the Baltic countries. The Baltic countries are not saying we will need 50 terawatt hours, within 10, 13 years. They don't do that because the space is this small compared to our ones. So I think it would be interesting I'm making the question that what if the European Union maybe later on says, hey, even geographics are to the common family. Sweden is not allowed to have these grand narratives when we're going to need 350 terawatts, and you have other countries dreaming of maximum 15 terawatts. But that's the reason why I was showing these images. Why do we have these grand narratives? And then through these images, understanding how we've been relating to space. You can also, another way of talking about space in Sweden is urban sprawl. Our cities, they grow like this because we have space. I think it's, a big difference compared to other cities, in other countries.
Where they grow like this.
They grow like that,
Yes.
So we are very good in spreading like this.
Yeah. One last question. I've seen pictures of Greta Thunberg being against some green transition project because it was on Sami land. Is there a growing movement against the green transition, or is it going smoothly?
Well, you have this word that is called green colonialism.
Yes.
That word exists, So then it's very much connected to in this case, to the north of Sweden. And I think this is again the reason why I show you these maps. I'm not saying why we brought them up is just to illustrate when we think of these places, we need to include this kind of minority way of reading the geographies. But I'm not saying that we need to adjust totally, because it's also a question of demographics. I can give another example. In Sweden, I mean, I have a Swedish immigrant background, and yes, I require some kind of representation of being a Swedish immigrant background, but there is a rooftop. We are not enough immigrants to be in a space where I wish half of the population would be here with Swedish immigrants. You don't have that possibility demographic-wise. So maybe this is also another reality we have to think of, demographics. Reality and demographics.
Thank you, Daniel. And we will be seeing you in the panel in just a short while. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And from Sweden, we move to Norway, and to explore the case of Norwegian wind power. Marte Skogen, a PhD candidate from the University of Bergen. She's interested, or you're interested, in public opinion and political representation on climate and morality issues. And in your PhD project, you investigate attitudes towards renewable energy. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Marte. As was mentioned, I am a PhD candidate at the Department of Comparative Politics in Bergen, so I'm a political scientist. I was very sorry to miss yesterday's session. I think it all sounds very relevant for the topics I will now cover in this talk, because my dissertation is mostly on really understanding attitudes towards renewable energy, and in particular, wind power. So that is what I will speak about today. I will not go so much to the local level. I will stay quite on the public, using mostly survey data to see how public opinion has really developed over time, before I